Hi Tracy, we're back. Welcome to our Coping with Corona series, and please could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi Jonny. Thank you firstly for allowing me to be on ELN. That's fantastic. My name is Tracy Lewis. I'm the Managing Director of Carbonxgen, which for those who don't know us, we're an energy consultancy sort of specialising in delivery of bureau services, procurement and energy strategies and etc.
So what does your day-to-day work look like normally? What kind of work are you providing for your clients?
We work mainly within the property sector, so we procure gas, electricity and water contracts on their behalf. The bureau services are things like bill validation and then help desk facilities for any of their utilities that they need us to work on. And also energy surveys and NetZero carbon strategies is obviously the big thing at the moment. So really, we've been working in this industry for nearly 30 years. So net carbon's always been on our agenda, but maybe under a different guise.
And how are you coping at the moment? Because obviously the coronavirus has disrupted everything, all industries, and I'm sure your company is no exception.
No, indeed, absolutely. I mean, we were very lucky because from a point of view of being able to pick up and work from home, we were able to do that without any problems. That was a very smooth transition for us because last year we moved everything into the cloud and everybody was working from laptops. So from a point of view of being able to move, that was very simple for us. It's more
good timing.
It was great timing, yeah, very fortuitous. But I think actually it's the things you don't think about. You think about, having a laptop, but it's has everybody got the right facilities to be able to work from home, the right chairs and desks and things like that. But generally speaking, we stopped on about the 17th of March, I think, so just before everybody was forced to go home and work from home, which gave us an opportunity to test everything, work in that environment so that when our clients were then being disrupted, we were ready to work for them. So it worked quite well for us.
Are you back to business as usual, would you say? Yeah. Is this the new business as usual?
Yeah, we've coined the phrase business is unusual because I don't think it can get any more unusual than it is quite, right now. But we work, yeah, absolutely. The core deliverable services for us, the procurement, that's still happening. All of the bill validation, it's a major thing for our clients, clearly, making sure that their utility bills are coming in and being validated and they can make payment of them, even though the buildings are using less, they still need to pay for what is being used. So in that sense, absolutely. There are things that will inevitably be having to stop because energy surveys, you have to go in and out of buildings. But we still have a team of people on Regent Street, a partner that works with us, who, if there's any emergency situation in the building, we can get somebody out to them, assuming the conditions are right to do so, of course.
So typical energy surveys and so on have stopped for now, I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not deemed to be an emergency situation, which is quite right. We shouldn't be putting people in any situation which they don't need to be in. The majority of our clients are London, so we're not going to be sending our team of people into London unless there's an emergency and there's a need and a health and safety risk such that we deem it's a reasonable thing to do. So surveys and metering works, which are things that we tend to do, they've stopped, but we've just utilised those people in different ways throughout the business. Luckily, a lot of people have trained in other areas before they've moved into those areas of our business, so we can just redeploy them, which has been great. Or you can do more research at this time, so you can use that headcount in a very different way.
Well, it sounds like you've adapted very well to the situation as it's changed everything. But were you prepared? Because as the boss of a company, you have to be ready for different things to happen. But a pandemic's quite a hard thing to predict and cope with.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think anybody could have been ready for this. Nobody knew this was coming, unless, of course, you speak to Bill Gates, but even then he didn't know when. So, I don't think anyone could predict this. What you learn about yourself, I think, when you're going through this is just how agile you really are. And I think that's probably one of the most important things is how can you very, very quickly adapt. And that's not just about adapting to where you're going to be working from, whether it's the office environment and picking that and moving that to home. It's about how you're going to think differently. It's about how you're going to support your clients in a very different way to the way that you did the week before, because the challenges are very different. So, it's made us really sort of step back and really think. What we realised was that we have some fantastic partners that we work with, and you don't think to introduce them to your clients because they are working within your network. And the thing that we thought about that would be really important at this time is about everybody working together, everybody supporting one another, all of those small businesses, making sure that they can continue to work in some way, shape or form. So sort of working as a network and trying to continue to provide those services and tell our clients that we've got people here. They don't think when they look at us as a utility provider or an energy consultancy, they don't think of us as being somebody that can help with their connectivity, but we can. So it's how you adapt in those times that we found it's been exhilarating in a way, but completely exhausting at the same time. So,
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
So what's going to change when things return to normal-ish? What kind of new things have you discovered that work well in the business, and what new working practices might be around permanently?
I think the thing that we've all identified, and I think a fear for a lot of people when they run a business, is that when people work from home, will they be working from home?
Or watching Netflix,
and what we found is actually productivity has been very, very good. So, I think people, that initial thought process of, I can work from home and I've got time, boredom can very, very quickly set in those circumstances. And what you find is that people actually are working maybe sometimes different hours. We've had to accommodate that. Clearly people have children at home and being able to work with them in different ways is really, really important, maybe different times. So it shows you that actually you can have more flexibility as an organisation. Maybe that can be something you adapt into. Maybe your opening hours, your clients can be different because people have got used to working more flexibly and in different ways. Fundamentally for us, what we hope will happen is that people will sort of really waken up to the net zero message that we've been giving. And we've seen more traction there. I think people have understood that a pandemic and pollution and those things all sort of come together in terms of, I think it's 7 million people a year die of pollution. And they're saying that obviously if there's more pollution, you're more susceptible to death from a pandemic. So those messages coming together, maybe people will start to look at the environmental crisis now more seriously than they have done before. And I wrote a piece a little while ago saying, don't waste a crisis. It was a term I heard. And I loved that phrase. I just thought that is so on the money at the moment to understand that we've got, in some instances, more time on our hands than we had before. We're having to think differently, put more time to think and research things. And I hope that clients will be doing the same and really thinking about that environmental piece. We can't necessarily see it and feel it today, but it's there. And if we apply ourselves in the same way that we've applied ourselves to the pandemic, then we can make some considerable differences to those 2030, 2050 targets. So that's
do you think, because obviously there's less pollution now, there's less people commuting to work, less people driving around, lots of smog has cleared in lots of different places, and people have seen kind of, what an emergency looks like, and they probably want to avoid it happening again. But do you think there's any risk of net zero progress being delayed by this because it's been so disruptive to government and business?
Well, I think inevitably when it comes down to investment, then quite possibly. But what we're finding is that the things that don't have to cost an awful lot of money in order for particularly people in properties to understand how to run their buildings more efficiently, simple sort of targeting and monitoring programs, looking at what you're using, and they don't have to cost a lot of money, but the impact they can have, 20% saving is not to be ignored. So I would like to think that there are things out there that can start people on the right path to a journey that don't necessarily have to have the levels of investment that they think they may need. I think if we can just get people to be thinking in the right way and just making them understand that any small step that they make today is setting them on that path to net zero. Nobody's going to turn up with a magic wand and say, hey, that's happened overnight. So there will be investment, but maybe that investment, is coming in years to come as we come out of this, which hopefully is not too far down the line.
Yeah, like you said, a crisis like this presents a great opportunity to kind of break the status quo and switch to new ways of working and living our lives. So fingers crossed, I hope we see that. And
Yeah,
thank you very much for talking to us, Tracy. And we'll catch up in the future and look back on all this.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.